Can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Alain,
Yes, here.
Commissioner Irvin,
Present.
Commissioner Hirschbein has not arrived. Commissioner Miller,
Here.
Commissioner Maruzzi,
Here.
Vice Chair Roberts is excused, and Chair Warmick.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Can I have a report on the posting of the agenda, please?
Madam Chair and Planning Commissioners, our agenda was posted on Thursday, June 2nd. Our meeting has been posted in accordance with state law.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the agenda, please?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, this is a time for public comments. It's been set aside for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on a consent calendar and other agenda items. Please note that the Planning Commission is prohibited from taking action on items that are not listed on our posted agenda. Each speaker will be allowed 3 minutes. Testimony for public hearings may be offered at this time or at the time of the hearing. Are there any members of the public who wish to speak? Seeing none, public comments is closed, and we have no consent calendar items, so we're at public hearings. The first public hearing is Pilot Travel Center LLC for the amendment of an existing conditional use permit to allow the sale of beer and wine for off-site consumption at an existing convenience store of an automobile service station and truck stop located at 6605 North Indian Canyon Drive. Staff report, please.
Yeah, good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. So if I can just share my screen very briefly. Okay, can you see it?
No.
Okay.
At all. There it goes.
Okay. All right, so can you see it on the larger screen?
Yes.
Yes, okay. All right, sorry about that mix-ups. Thank you once again, Madam Chair and members of the Planning Commission. So the item before you tonight is a request to amend an existing conditional use permit, and the applicant is the Pilot Travel Centers located at 6605 North Indian Canyon Drive. So just a little, a brief background of the location and the application. So way back in 2012, the Planning Commission did grant a conditional use permit for the use at that location. And at that time, the sales did not include the sale of beer and wine. The applicant has now come back to amend the CUP to allow the sale of beer and wine at that location for off-site consumption. But that simply means is that potential customers will come in, buy. The consumption will not take place at that premises. It will be off premises. That's what that simply means. So this area view will show you the general location of the site. Here is the location where my cursor is. That's where the Pilot Travel Center is. It is generally surrounded by gas stations and another drive-through restaurant to the south of the location. And then it is adjacent to the I-10 freeway to the north. And then to the west of it is mostly vacant, undeveloped land. And so this is the general location of the area. It is, again, up in the northern part of the city. And this slide shows you the current overall site plan of the area. There is the main store to the west of the site, and behind it is where the truck stop is located. And this is the floor plan of the sales area of the store itself. The store currently has a retail market and a drive-through restaurant. The Wendy's drive-through restaurant is located on the same building, but the retail market is also located on the same building with the same entrance, with one entrance for the two users. And this hashed area is the cooler area where the beer and wine will be displayed. So this is the current look of the whole building. There were some minor renovations that were made to the interior and the exterior of the building not too long ago. That was reviewed and approved at the staff level. And then that also include installation of new signages, both for the restaurant and for the center itself. So what you're seeing here is the exterior of the area. This is the canopy of the filling station, and this is some of the parking areas. This will show the interior. This is how this looks like. This picture was taken just yesterday, and this is the retail market in the area. So currently, they do offer different selections of food item, auto accessories, and other beverages. Furthermore, this is more of the interior area. There is an ice cream sales area, and then a coffee sales area, and other food items that is being sold in the store. More of the interior area, and this is, so you come in through the main entrance, and this door leads to the drive-through restaurant, Wendy's. And again, this picture shows additional areas of the interior of the retail area. Now, this is the cooling area that I referenced in that site plan, the floor plan. Is this area right here? That's where the display of the beer and wine will be located. So I did field a question from one of the planning commissioners today. The first has to do with the size, the accurate size of the retail floors area. So I had that clarified. The actual sales area is 2978 and not 1278 as indicated in one of the sections of the findings. So it is according to the floor plan, the display area will only accommodate about 125 square foot, which amounts to roughly 4.2% of the total retail sales area. The second question had to do with finding number 2. And just for disclosure, the question came from Commissioner Lori Allian. She talked about the addition of buttressing finding number 2. So this is that staff has worked on the finding. I have added this underlined area, which says that the addition of beer and wine sales will be desirable as an added source of revenue generation to the city's general fund. So that will be added to that finding number 2. There was also another question on finding number 5. So that finding in the resolution will now read as follows. Conditions of approval will be imposed to ensure that the health, safety, and welfare of the public will not be adversely affected by the proposed off-premises consumption of alcohol as part of a retail store. The conditions which are stated in Exhibit A include the limitation of display area, the restriction to off-site consumption, and the installation of video surveillance at the store. So that will be a revised resolution. Again, there were specific conditions that were added to the overall conditions of approval The first one is the limitation of the sale of beer and wine. And then the second one is the limitation, the restriction of the overall floor area where beer and wine could be displayed, not to exceed 5% of the total retail sales area. The code does allow up to 25, but in this case, staff is recommending a condition of approval for the area not to exceed 5% of the total retail area. And finally, the installation of video surveillance, which they already have, but this condition really expressed or made it stronger for the applicant to understand what the purpose of having the video surveillance installed in the retail store will do. And if it ever comes to a time when the police department might need to review it, to be made available at all times. So that's what the last condition says. Madam Chair, staff will be recommending approval for this, for the proposed CUP amendment, because we were able to make the necessary findings. And just so you know, the applicant has also requested for a resolution of public convenience and necessity. Following your action, that request will be going before the council for that resolution should the CUP amendment be granted tonight. That will conclude my staff report. I'm available to answer any of your questions. This is a public hearing, and the applicant is also available to answer any of your questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Marucci.
Yeah, Edward, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last thing you said about something would go to the city council. What did you say?
So because that tract already has, I think because of the sparse population of that area, of that tract, there are only 7 type 20 alcohol ABC licenses that are available. There are already 7 licenses in that tract. Therefore, ABC requires that the city council will have to adopt a resolution of public convenience and necessity in order to grant the type 20 ABC license that the applicant would need to sell beer and wine for off-site consumption at that location. But in order for that PCN to move forward, the CUP has to be amended first to allow the sale of beer and wine at that location.
So the issue of this type 20 requirement has nothing to do with us.
Well, it does, because without the amendment of the CUP, they couldn't move forward.
I mean, once we approve the CUP, if we approve the CUP, that's it, we're done. We're not going to address this other question, correct?
Correct. The next action will be at the city council.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Olayan.
Yes, I have a question from Mr. Robertson. I think, and this is a question, on finding number 3, do we need to change the square footage of the retail market from 1,278 to 2,978? Because at this point, as I do the math, I calculate that at 125 square feet for the retail display of alcoholic beverages, we would be over the 5% threshold that is in the conditions.
That's correct. That will be amended.
Okay, so that'll be 220. Okay, great.
Yes.
Otherwise, no comments, no questions. Thank you.
Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, Mr. Robertson, could you pull up the first slide you showed, which is the front facade of the site outdoors that you just passed there? So I'm seeing the California in yellow saying "Welcome to Palm Springs," and that facade or the landscaping on the site in front of the building is not very welcoming. It's non-existent, and I'm wondering if there's any agreement among the other commissioners to try to get a little bit of landscaping where it can fit up there against the building. I know we're in a drought and we want to encourage drought tolerant landscaping, but there is zero landscaping on this site except at the outer perimeter. And there may be some limitations in how much can fit in there given the parking requirements, but I sure would like to see some amount of landscaping there if at all possible.
May I respond to that?
Sure.
Yeah, we did review that when the application came in for the minor architectural to allow the exterior and interior renovation, and we looked at the width of that area that you referenced from the face of the building to the curb. I think it's less than 3 feet. So I don't know if it would truly allow for the installation of landscaping in that area. So if you look at towards the southern part of the building, you see where the bollards are.
Yeah.
So yeah, it looks a little bit tight, but we can take another look at it. So
yeah, and even I don't know, there's an indentation there, or where the pop out of the front entry comes out under that Cinnabon sign. I don't know if that widens enough there to get some foundation shrubbery, something up against the building. Just something to look at.
okay.
Anything we can do here can really make it look a little better.
Okay. We can look for some creative ways to include some.
If at all possible. I mean, I support this addition at this facility.
Excuse me, you're out of order. This is only questions for staff.
Okay, I'm done.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Robertson, do you know what the staffing is inside of the convenience center and what it will be till 2 a.m. in the morning?
You know, I will leave that to the applicant to address. I do not have that number on top of my head. Since you're not answering that, what I'd like to do is open the public hearing and invite the applicant to make a presentation. They have 10 minutes.
Chair, I did have a question.
I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand up. Commissioner Irvin.
Yes. Do we want to wait for Edward, or do you?
No, I'm here. I was just trying to see if I can find the number of employees at the site. So.
Okay, I was just curious to know, is this building similar to the size of the Tower Market that we approved? And also for the area of sale for alcohol, is it somewhat comparable to what it is for the Tower Market that we just recently approved?
I do not have the square footage of that site at all. I didn't work on that application, but I can look into it and provide you the response to that question. So I don't have that on top of my head.
What about the sales of alcohol, the percentage?
Yeah, the same with that. I have to go back and pull the file real quick to.
Can we open the
respond to that
hearing and then have answers to those questions when it comes back for consideration?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I might be able to answer some of these questions before we open the hearing. In the CUP application for pilot, they indicate there would be 3 to 12 employees based on anticipated traffic from patrons. So it sounds like there's generally at least 3 employees on hand based on the application, but the applicant might be able to clarify that for us. And then in response to Commissioner Irvin's question, the Tower Market was 5,343 square feet. And this application is, Edward, I believe it's 3,000 or so, or 2,900?
2,970.
So this is a little bit smaller.
And the percentage of alcohol at Tower Market?
Let's see if I have that. There was a maximum of 20% devoted to alcohol.
And so what we're looking at here is a maximum of 5%.
Correct.
Correct. Commissioner Irvin, do you have more questions?
No, that's it. Thank you.
The public hearing is open and the applicant has 10 minutes to address us. If you can take down your slides.
Yes.
Great. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you very much for having me this evening. My name is Brett Engstrom. I'm here on behalf of Pilot Travel Center. I'll just give a brief recap of our project and of the company. As you know, the project at 6605 North Indian Canyon Drive, adjacent to Garnet and Interstate 10. A little background on Pilot as a company. Company began in 1958 with a single location in Virginia. They now operate 750 locations throughout the country and Canada and employ over 28,000 people. So it is a large company, and they try and take care of each of their locations. This particular property consists of 3 parcels totaling 5.4 acres, which gives it a good amount of size to accommodate both passenger vehicles and the semi-truck traffic. Site includes an 11,273 square foot building, fueling stations for both vehicles and the semis, and parking spaces for both those passenger vehicles and the semi-trucks themselves. Within the building, we have the Pilot Travel operation itself, Wendy's restaurant, and they've recently added a Cinnabon in there, which apparently is very popular. This application pertains to the retail sales area only. That totals 2,978 square feet. The other portions of the pilot section of the operation include restrooms and shower facilities for the travelers. If you've ever been in the store, it has a surprisingly abundant variety of items to purchase. Foods, items, beverages, electronics, automotive goods, sundries. It's amazing what they fit under one roof, and they can have everything for a traveler in one location. We are requesting to amend the existing CUP to allow, we're requesting to amend their current CUP to allow beer and wine sales. This is not a unique use. That's a difficult word for me, as it is standard in all the Pilot Travel Centers throughout the state. We have applied for a Type 20 ABC license. That is beer and wine for offsite consumption. The proposed beer and wine sales will remain ancillary to the overall operation. Out of the 2,978 square foot retail floor area, only 125 square feet will be dedicated to beer and wine display. That's indicated on the floor plan that Edward showed us earlier. It will be limited to that amount, and that comes to 4.2% of the overall retail area. Pilot has an extensive training program for all employees and managers involved in the sale of beer and wine, and they have an excellent record of compliance with the Department of ABC. They're excited about this location. They've invested more money into the location with the updates to the exterior and dressing up the interior, and they would love your support of adding the beer and wine sales at this point. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Edward for all his work on the case, on the file, getting it to a hearing, and apologize because I think I inadvertently gave him a incorrect square footage calculation that our commissioner found and pointed out to us. So that was my fault. Edward has been wonderful all the way through. And with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions you may have.
Are there questions of the applicant? I have a couple stemming from the questions that were asked. Do you there was a comment about landscaping in the front of the building. Could I get your read on that and your openness to doing that?
Pilot just put money back into the property, so they are interested in making sure it presents well and it's operated and it's clean and inviting. My only problem with the very front of the building, if you look at the sidewalk, it is not an overly wide sidewalk. So there is a vestibule that butts out for the entrance to Pilot to allow the air curtains and help with the air conditioning costs at the property. But the sidewalk itself is not really large enough to put any sort of substantial landscaping in that area. But we will be happy to talk about adding it somewhere else to the site in hopes of making it look more presentable for the commissioners.
And my second question was, you said your staffing is 3 to 12 employees. What kind of staffing would you have in the late night hours from, say, midnight to 2?
Between 3 and 4 people at any time overnight. And this allows for a couple people in the retail area, maybe an on-site manager, and someone that could assist with anything out on the grounds while not taking away from the personnel within the store.
So would you have an objection to our adding a condition that required that you have at least 2 people in the store at any time?
I think that's a fair condition and a safe one.
I think those are all of my questions. The matter is before the commission. I'm assuming there is no public testimony.
No other requests to speak, Madam.
You would have 3 minutes for rebuttal, but do you need it?
As much as I enjoy speaking with you folks, I'm okay. Thank you.
Great. The matter is before the commission. Just to get this going, I'm going to make a motion to approve this with the condition that there be a minimum of 2 people in the store or in the facility at all times that liquor is being sold. Let me tell you my reason. I was listening to the appeal on another beer and wine or liquor issue, and our police department said that there was a study that the stores are much safer with a minimum of 2 people in them. The city doesn't have a policy on this, but given that you generally have 3 to 4 people, I'd like that condition in this if I can get a second. I'm not going to ask for the landscape in the front. There are footings and sidewalks there. I think if you tried to put landscape in that narrow an area with the building footings, the landscape wouldn't survive anyway. You need a deeper bed. But I would accept the applicant's offer to work with staff to put additional landscape someplace else on the property. Is there a discussion or is there a second to my motion?
I will second the motion, and I will also note that in the conditions, there is a condition number PLN 2, which refers to the conformance with the water efficient landscape ordinance, and it does allow some leeway in there, subject to the approval of the director of planning services. So I'm hoping that he will be able to work with the applicant and see if they can spruce things up a little bit, because I think that Commissioner Miller's concerns, I share those, and I understand that our goal to get some landscaping there. This is actually on the side of the building that we might have success with landscaping.
Can the city attorney, is there a way of wording that you would be comfortable with?
It's in a condition already.
But it's a condition regarding water efficient landscaping. It's not a condition, an offer by the applicant to add additional landscape someplace on the property.
Let me take a look at that condition. So the policy express, I'm sorry, Commissioner, could you express that one more time?
The condition number PLN 2 requires conformance with the water efficient landscaping ordinance, and it also allows changes to the existing landscaping as long as they're submitted to the Director of Planning Services for review and approval. And then, of course, they have to go through approval with the, I believe it's both the county and with the water district for approval as well. More specific requirements that refers you to chapter 8.60 of the municipal code.
Yes.
We are only changing one condition at this point. So the question is, if the applicant is offered to put some additional landscaping in, is that something that we add a condition for, or just authorize staff to work with them? Should we include it? That's my question to you.
I see. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would advise that we have staff work with them on this rather than making it a formal condition.
That sounds fine to me.
Okay.
So then the only additional condition I'd have is that there be a minimum of at least two staff at the property during the hours that alcohol is sold. For a question for the applicant, are those your hours or are you open all night?
We are open overnight for the fueling and the retail store. Alcohol sales obviously end at 2 a.m. 6 a.m. to 2 a.m. are the beer and wine sales, but the store does operate overnight.
So just the condition that there be two people, a minimum of two staff on the
At all times.
At all times.
Madam President, can I ask one other quick question? Do you mind? Yes. On condition PLN 12, it relates back to the alcohol sales area. At the very end of the sentence, it says shall not exceed 5% of total retail sales. I think that should be retail sale area.
That sounds correct to me.
Great.
So the motion has one condition. It has the corrections that Edward mentioned, and just direct the applicant to work with staff on additional landscape. And we have a motion and a second, am I correct?
Yes.
Are there any comments? Can you call the roll, please?
Wemmick? Chair Wemmick?
Yes.
Commissioner Lamb?
Yes.
Commissioner Irvin?
Yes.
And Commissioner Hirschbein never arrived, right?
Correct.
Commissioner Miller?
Yes.
Commissioner Marucci?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for your work, for staff and the applicant for their work on this. Best of luck to you.
Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, planning staff.
Okay, moving right along. Planning Commission reports, requests, and comments. I had, are there requests or comments? Yes, Commissioner Miller.
Yeah, it's actually something that Chair, you referred to earlier regarding an appeal that was at council, and I was hoping the staff could give us an update. I'm assuming that was the Shell station on Indian Canyon that went to City Council. What was the result of that?
We were overturned unanimously, 4-0. And I did testify, I explained that we didn't think there was a policy, but and possibly staff can comment. I think the appeal was based on having granted extended hours to large public corporations and denying them to a smaller local business. And council they didn't feel they had a conflict. I don't think they stated that, but between most of the stores that sell alcohol, most of them sell it up till midnight. There were 3 that sold till 2, and I think they were comfortable with sales till 2. Would that be correct, Mr. Newell?
Correct, yeah. So they did overturn the denial, and they did take into consideration some of the comments that the commission had relative to the window, the number of staff and things like that. So lighting and things like that. So there were comments that they did take into consideration when they took action.
Thank you.
I had asked Mr. Newell to talk with us a little bit about Serena Park and what's been happening with that property. It's been in the news in terms of issues with it. So if you could tell us what's going on.
Yes, as you may recall, the Serena Park project is subject to a development agreement. Last year, they made some changes to that development agreement. And one of the requirements was they submit a security and maintenance plan, which the council reviewed in December and accepted. And that was a list of items that they were required to do relative to maintaining and securing the property. This past 6 months, we've seen quite a bit of wind and a lot of dust. And it does turn out that it doesn't appear that they had applied the ground sealant to the property. So staff has been trying to work with them to get that done, and happy to report that at least a portion of the site has received the sealant on the north side where it's near the Four Seasons property and the mobile home park. But as far as having the final, the whole property done, we're still working to get that done, but they have been working to do that. There's been other efforts to put K-rails where there have been entry points to the property to prevent off-road vehicles traversing the site. So they've installed K-rails a few months ago, and they know from, according to an email this week, they were planning on adding more K-rails today or some point this week. So I know that they're continuing to work on those items. But yeah, it's still an ongoing problem that we're dealing with. So,
did they remove the tamarisk trees, which they were supposed to do?
Yeah, some trees were removed, but they have not removed all of the trees. And the flip side to that is once you remove the trees, you have a dust problem. So they've removed some where we've had specific requests that they remove trees from residents that are adjacent to the project. We had a list of people who had requested that they remove trees behind their property. And they did remove those trees, but certainly the property still has probably a majority of the trees that have been there for several years. So I think the news article reported that the applicant was working with Williams Homes, as we were discussing last year, to purchase the property. In discussing what the current situation is with the applicant, my understanding is that deal is no longer going forward. So we kind of await to hear back from him as to when they intend to move the project forward with some other plan. So.
And didn't they have a 1-year timeline to get approvals to be in construction, to submit plans, to go through plan check and start construction?
They had basically a year to get the final development plan submitted, which they have not done. And basically something happening on the ground. So they're still a little bit behind, and it looks like they've missed some deadlines in March. So we will be working directly with them to see what we can do to get it moved forward. The commission will do an annual review in the fall, so we'll have more information for you at that time.
Thank you. Commissioner Marucci, you had your hand up before.
Yeah, I was just curious, the application for the nightclub at the bank, where does that stand?
So the application was continued by the council to their June 30th meeting. So they'll have, I assume they'll conclude their review of that and make a decision on June 30th.
And what were the issues that they were considering that weren't able to be resolved at the previous meeting?
They gave some direction for us to work more with the police department on revising conditions or adding conditions to address some of the issues that have been brought up relative to the parking and street crossing if they were using parking across the street at the Rite Aid parking lot. And then just general operations.
There was also a police report that the police, I think, said that they might not be able to handle. They had the staffing to handle that issue. And they gave the applicant a month to deal with that. So I think there was a police report that was given to the applicant, and they wanted to be fair and let them review it. A lot of it came down to am I correct, neighbors? The neighbors were very vocal, hired counsel. And the issues that we had raised regarding public safety were issues that the council was taking seriously.
I think some of the issues had to do with noise.
They were noise and safety. The spilling out of 300 people onto the street.
Yeah, well, that produces a lot of noise. I remember that was one of the major issues I was concerned about.
So I think it's still before the city council. There've been 2 hearings on it, on the appeal so far.
Yeah, one main hearing, and then the second hearing was more of we were hoping for more, so we'll continue to June 30th to get more.
Any other questions or reports? Commissioner Alayan.
I'll start before I give a report with a question. I'm not sure if this is what we do or not, because I'm relatively new. The planning commissioners attend the architectural review committee meetings over the course of the year. And I attended May 16th meeting, and I forgot about it at our last planning commission meeting. Am I supposed to report out to you on that, or just to be available in case anybody has any questions and wants to know what happened on the cases they considered?
You can report out, Commissioner Lane, if you'd like to. It's not required. But it's really more of a, when a project that's on the ARC, and historically projects always went to the ARC first, and now we've kind of reversed that. But so now I guess it would be reporting back on projects that went to Planning Commission and then went to ARC afterwards. But generally in the past, when we've had projects that go to ARC and then come to Planning Commission, the purpose is really to have that commissioner kind of report back on the discussion or the final actions that were made relative to that project when it's before the commission.
Are we still asking people to go to those meetings?
Yeah, I just went to one just a few days ago, and it's a complete and utter waste of time. Because we've reversed the order of this review, they're just reviewing the issues, a few of the issues we raised, and then they go ahead with their discussion. They make some revisions and so forth, and then they vote. But there's no reason for us to what's the point? I mean, really, what is the point if the decisions have been made on our end and we're not going to review it again? It made sense when it went first to ARC, and then they went on to us, and we could say, I was there listening to what they said. These are their major concerns. We're going to do it anymore. So I would recommend that we don't have this. It's a waste of time.
I didn't know we were still sending out requests for people to attend. I can say that when I was in Santa Monica and we had this kind of process, no planning commissioner ever attended the design review meetings. And the only time we did is when we had appeals that came to us. We didn't attend the meetings, but we got information on appeal.
How do we make a formal request to remove this requirement? And there was a whole calendar that came out at the beginning of the year with our names and all the months we're supposed to do it and all this stuff. So how can we move forward with removing this burden?
Mr. Newell?
I was trying to see if we have it in our bylaws or the rules of procedure. And if we do, we would ultimately need to revise those rules. But that's something we can look into and report back to the commission on.
And I think it would be the unanimous request of the commission to make that change now that the procedure's been revised.
Okay.
Any other questions or reports of staff?
Just a couple of things. The next meeting, well, before the next meeting, we have, as I mentioned at the beginning, the joint meeting with all boards and commissions and city council. That'll be on Tuesday, June 21st. That's a 5 p.m. dinner and 6 o'clock meeting. Hopefully everyone's available at the meeting. It's a way to say thank you for your service for the past year, present items that we've worked on in the past year to the council, and just kind of let the council know what we've worked on. So it's really a short presentation. It can just be an oral report out, or if you would like to do a PowerPoint, we can do that as well. So I can work with the chair, and it'll basically be the chairs of each board and commission providing that report. And so if there's any suggestions that you might have, please forward those on to me or Kathy or both of us.
Or possibly even right now, if you have items that you would like to have mentioned that we've worked on.
I know, a big one is the housing element. We worked on that last summer. We're working, obviously we've implemented the new architecture review process over the past year. So there's a few things that I think come to mind off the top of my head initially that are, I think, key issues or key things that have occurred in the past year that are important to the commission. So we can work on those, and then what we might do is just send that out to everybody, the list that we come up with. And
are there things that the commission, in addition to what we standardly do, want to work on over the next year? I know at one point we had talked about working with sustainability, but they didn't have staff on a tree ordinance. And I don't know if that's something anybody else cares about. We've had a change of some of the personnel in the commission. And the other thing we had talked about was probably at some point looking at some of the requests for rezoning. I mean, over the next year, we're going to be working on an update of all of our zoning.
yeah. We'll have over the next year the other elements of the general plan, goals and policies of the land use element. So all of that will be kind of in our work plan for the next year. But
I think it would be better to focus. We can focus a little on what we did this last year, and then more on what we're going to be doing next year, if that's agreeable to people. Will people attend that? I know it's indoors and we still have COVID going around.
I am actually going to be out of state helping my 89-year-old mother move from Alaska to Hawaii.
nice.
Lucky her.
She decided it would be a good idea and it was about time. So
Maybe she'll learn to surf. I'm not going to be able to make it, unfortunately, because I'll be coming back from abroad.
Oh, lucky you.
Thanks.
And anybody else? Commissioner Irvin, are you planning on attending?
Yeah, I'll be able to make it.
And Commissioner Miller, will you be there?
Yes, I will be there.
Oh, good. I'll have people to sit with. Thank you.
Unless Commissioner Miller chooses to sit with the HSPB.
Are you still on that?
I am. We had a meeting last night, 2.5 hours.
You had something that was controversial last night.
Well, it was that staff recommended denial or did not support the historic designation, and the HSBB decided we would support it. So there was a lot of negotiation and wrangling to get some findings that were defensible forwarded to the council. So,
What was the property?
Villa Roma condominiums off of Granada
Right,
and
sure.
Sierra Madre.
Yeah.
You want to come up and meet the, come here. Come on, come here. My dog is telling me she's hungry.
So am I.
So with this, is there anything else that we should talk about?
The other thing I wanted to mention is at the next meeting, we'll have a large project, the Desert Peak Battery Storage Facility. That's a large project. I think we sent out the environmental documents with your packet, so you had some ample time to review those before the staff report is published. So it will be a longer meeting, I expect.
Yeah, and Mr. New, if I may add, I truly want to appeal to the Planning Commissioners that if you have any, because of the technical nature of that project, if you have any question, and I'm presuming that you will, to please forward those to staff prior to the meeting so we can work on the responses meeting time. So, yeah, and including also, Mr. New, recall that we will be having a study session on that night for a pre-app on that same night. So,
For a pre-app on what?
A pre-app for a proposed mixed-use development on where the former office of the gas company was located right there on Sunrise, not Sunrise, yeah. So there is a pre-app for a mixed use that will consist of apartments and a hotel, which is kind of it's a new concept. So we wanted to bring that before you to give us comments and your directions on if it's something that you want to see there or if you have different directions. We just want your take on that. There will be no formal action, just on a discussion presentation only.
Edward, is the existing building proposed to be demolished?
No, it's not. It's going to be an adaptive reuse, so it's not going to be demolished.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll probably just keep that as a discussion item instead of creating a separate meeting, because there's only 2 items at this point, unless we have other items that come up that would be on the agenda. And I was thinking about it when Commissioner Marucci mentioned our agendas have been quite light. I think it's because the ARC has been taking a bulk of what Planning Commission used to review, single family homes down Hillside and the Hillside areas. So they've been reviewing a lot of the things that Planning Commission would also see, but is not seeing anymore because of the new architectural review process.
How is that working?
It's good. Yeah, I think it's created a lighter agenda for the Planning Commission. I think some ARC members have expressed discomfort with the loss of ability to modify a site plan, particularly in reference to one of the self-storage facilities that was approved. But that's, we made the process what it is because we wanted to streamline and identify our roles as the Planning Commission and the roles of ARC. So,
And have they come back with Marilyn yet? Has that gone to the commission?
They have not. I spoke with the applicant at the beginning of, towards the ending of last week. They are working on the revisions. And so that is very likely to come back and go to the next AAC hearing, which will be on June 20th, right? Yes.
And so the one question is, ARC only has 2 times to review something. Is that working? Or has that, I know that we were going to, at the end of the year, review this process, and it might be good to sit down with both commissions and see how it is working. I know one concern I have is that the staff person who was going to be doing some of the initial review, that they haven't been freed up from their duties on HSPB. And so we haven't had what we thought was essential in this process, which is an early and thorough design review on projects.
Yeah, and to that point, that same staff member was out of the office on medical leave. So we were short-staffed and really short-staffed when it came to that kind of role. So, we've been trying to work through that now, and we are doing kind of that early thorough review now at this point with that staff member being back.
Good.
So I think we're still doing it now more than we had in the recent past because we didn't have the staff person reviewing it because they weren't here. So I think we're catching a lot of the things that we wanted to catch early in the process. Now with that staff member being back, so hopefully, moving forward, we're on the right track. And
will we get a thorough report from the staff person on the issues when projects come to us?
I mean, we would have that staff member. Yeah, the staff member I don't know that we've gotten into the details on how that communication would work, but more than that person reviewed it before it came to the planning commission. So we still have to work out those details.
Okay, I kept us talking because I wanted us to last exactly 1 hour and not have this. I'm assuming this is not the shortest meeting on record, but we're close. If there's nothing else, I would adjourn the meeting until, what date are we coming back?
June 22nd.
Until June 22nd at 5:30 p.m. Have a nice June, everyone.
Thank you. Stay cool.